Hi guys, welcome back to our part four of um preparing for our oral exam. I know I haven't posted part one. Is it part one? Okay, yeah, I think it's part one. I know I haven't posted part one or part two, one of the two. There's just one missing. I'll post it, but this is part four, so we'll be doing from 2.11 to 2.17. 2.11 is dealing with an extension for lodging of liquidation and distribution account. So as we've discussed previously, the preliminary steps of administration are done. Remember, we've consulted and, obviously gathered everything, got an understanding of the values, the certificates, and everything else. We are done with the prepping. So now, what happens when an executor can't meet the deadline for launching the L&D account, right? Your liquidation and distribution, as we call it. L&D is just short. So by law, which is our Administration of Estates Act, the executor must lodge the L&D within 6 months from the date of letters of executorships being issued, right? So, however, sometimes some things just come there and then the deadline isn't like realistic. So maybe the estate includes immovable property that's being valued, or the executor is waiting for SARS to confirm the deceased's tax affairs, or maybe there's ongoing disputes that is making it difficult for the executor to finalize the figures. So, because obviously everything is not yet complete, we would need an extension. So, when that happens, the executor must then now, obviously we are governed by the masters if we are executors. So the executor must formally request an extension from the master of the High Court, right? So this isn't just a request like maybe you draft a you draft a quick email and be like, "Hi, I'm not able to do this." No, it must be in writing and must explain clearly why the account can't be lodged, right? Because we know the master is our supervisor. They gave us a deadline. If we can make it, um, just can't be a a touch and go. We have to ask, explain, and get written permission of why we cannot lodge. And you have to explain, is it due to delays? Maybe you've been finding it difficult to obtain the municipal valuation. And then, based on obviously your written reasons, the master will consider whether the reason is reasonable enough and whether the delay will prejudice the heirs. If satisfied, the master will issue the written approval and usually endorse on the letter itself or on the estate file that we file. And then we obviously would have been granted our permission to extend, not lodge, basically within that 6 months. So if it comes in the exam and they ask you something like, okay, you 6 months have come, you haven't been able to finalize your liquidation account, what can you do? You can obviously write to the master asking for an extension. Right, you're asking for an extension and you give reasons. So if your reasons are reasonable enough, the master will grant, provided that it does not prejudice the heirs in any way. So that is our 2.11. And then query sheet by the master. I skipped this because I mean I've got so many videos on drafting the liquidation and distribution account. At this point, I don't think this is important. If there's anything that you need in terms of L&D, you can always refer to old videos or yeah, but really L&D at this point we should be good. So now we're going on to the query sheet, right? So once the account has finally been lodged, I can remember we were requested an extension and then we done, got our extension. Now we lodged our LND, drafted our LND, which is the part that I skipped. Now we are at the query sheet. So once the account has finally been lodged, the master doesn't just rubber stamp, yes, it looks good, ne? They have to review it in detail, like checking the legal compliance, the evaluation, whether all creditors and heirs have been properly provided for. So if the master finds any problem or uncertainty, he or she will issue what we call a query sheet. So basically the query is a list of questions that the master has for you, or corrections that you have to do as the executor, and you must deal with those questions, the queries, before the account can be approved for advertising, right? It's like basically submitting an assignment, getting it back with comments in the margin that fix this, fix that. That's basically how a query sheet works. Now, it tells you what must be fixed. Um, Maybe if there's anything that the master needs clarity with regards to, then the master will ask, and then obviously you have to explain before the master just accepts your account. So the most common requirements of the most common, what's this, queries, it's things like your missing document. Let's say the valuation certificate is not there, or a bank statement, or maybe we've recorded incorrect fees or commission claimed by you as an executor. Maybe doubts with regards to expenses, or dates, people coming into claim, maybe miscalculation in distribution. Those like are your examples of what the master might query. So once you've received the master's queries, you obviously have to respond to every query in writing. If there's anything that the master said is missing, you have to attach that and then return the account back to the master. Once the master has received all responses and is satisfied with whatever response you gave, then they can endorse the account, and approve it. Then it can lie for inspection. So, our inspection is like your 14, it's the section 35.4 and section 35.5. So we satisfied, now it can proceed, right? So now here, basically, because we've drafted, the master looked at it, the master is happy. So just because the executor and the master are happy, it doesn't mean it is a touch and go. We have to now exercise this step, which is the steps where basically it's all about transparency. So once the account has passed master scrutiny, executives happy, we must give the public and interested parties a chance to inspect or object if necessary. So that's where your section 35.4 and section 35.5 of the Act comes in. So basically it requires the executor to advertise the account, and make it lay for inspection for 21 days. So remember, we do have these in our L&D. So in this process, the publication must appear in two places, right? Your government gazette, as well as one local newspaper where the deceased lived or carried business. And then the advertisement must include things like the deceased name and estate number, the master's office where the account will lie for inspection, the period of inspection, which is the 21 days, and then that the objections can be lodged with the master within that period, right? So, and then the executor must make sure that the notice date must match in both publications, right? So you cannot say it expires on this day in one public in your GG, and then you go to your your newspaper, and then it expires on another day. No, it cannot be. So during the 21 day, anyone with interest, whether an heir, a creditor, um, or even a family member may examine the account and lodge a written objection if they believe something is incorrect or fair, right? So, for example, let's say a creditor sees that his account is 50,000. His claim of 50,000 wasn't listed, ne? Under the claims against the estate. He can then file an objection attaching proof of his debt, or an heir maybe arguing legacy was incorrectly calculated. And they can also raise an objection to say that, nah, but this is not it. The executor did not do it properly. All right. And then if there are no objections received, the master will endorse the account as lying for inspection, free from objection, which meaning it was open, there was no objection. We are all happy. And then if objections are received, the master will investigate them, right? So sometimes this means sending the matter back to the executor to amend the account. If we have obviously now established that yes, the executor made a mistake somewhere. And then other times the master might hold an inquiry under section 35(9). And then to determine is this really true, things like that. And then we go to finalization of the administration. So remember, we laid it for inspection. If there were objections or no objections. If there were objections, obviously it was referred, maybe it's sorted out. If or maybe the master held an inquiry, we sorted that out, or there was no objection, we proceed, right? We proceed to a finalization stage. So now this is the exciting part, right? So once the account has lain for open for inspection and either no objections or objections have been resolved, the master issues a certificate of no objection, right? Or a simple endorsement authorizing the executor to proceed with the distribution. So this is where now we are happy and we are giving to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. So at this stage, we are paying creditors that are listed in the account. We are transferring or delivering inheritance to heirs and legatees. We are completing any property transfers through conveyances if there is immovable property involved. We are obtaining official receipts from all parties. So in administration, you don't just give. When you give, you must get what we call a receipt to say that, yes, Sheila received what belongs to her, right? For example, let's say an estate has 300,000 in the bank. After all debts are paid, the will provides for 100,000 for each of the children, right? So the executor must ensure that each child signs a receipt and a discharge acknowledging payment. So those receipts are later filed with the master as proof that the estate has distributed according to the approved amount. If there's immovable property, to transfer, the conveyancer will handle the registration in the deeds office using the master's endorsement as authority, right? Um, so once all that's done, the executor prepares a final report to the master, confirming that every item in the liquidation and distribution account has been carried out exactly as the master has approved us. And then now we are done. We now proceed to the master's requirements. So when everything now seems complete, the master usually has a few final requirements before the estate is officially closed. Okay? So this may include the master now asking for proof that all creditors were paid, proof of distribution to the heirs, transfer documents for the property, things like your SARS, clearance certificates. In other words, the master now double checks that the executor didn't just promise to do these things, but actually did them. So only when these documents are filed and the master is satisfied that there's nothing further outstanding, the estate will be regarded as fully administered. Ne? And then now we now proceed to section 30, section 56, which is the discharge, right? Okay, I forgot to mention. So now, because remember, we've got everything that we've distributed and whatever. So if there's monies that are not distributed, we're going to put them in what we call a guardian's fund. So a guardian fund holds the money until someone comes and claims it, right? So even if there's a minor's cash can also be put in a guardian's fund for them to cash out when they reach the stage of majority. Cool. And then now we go to our discharge, right? So, and now this is basically the final step in the life of an estate. So Section 35 of the Act provides that once the master is satisfied that the estate has been fully administered, the master must issue a formal discharge to the executor. Remember a discharge in criminal law? This is similar to it. This discharge releases the executor from any further duties and responsibility in respect of the estate. So, in short, basically, no, it's like a certificate signed by the master confirming that all requirements has been met, the estate is closed. So, the reason this is very important is that after discharge, no one can come and hold the executor personally liable for later claims relating to the administration, unless, of course, there was like fraud and negligence. And then also it serves to mark as the closure of the estate file. So for example, if a creditor comes forward a year later, claiming to have forgotten a debt, the executor can refer that person, say that, oh, well, go to Sheila. No, I did my part. The estate has been finalized. Deal with Sheila. So obviously, bear in mind that this doesn't mean that we now the executor did something wrong, right? Like misappropriating funds, being grossly negligent. They can now still push the claim to the heirs. No, it can't work like that. So if there was gross negligence, the master or the affected parties can still apply to court for remedies. So once discharge is granted, the executor must keep the estate records for at least 5 years in case of the master requesting them. Yeah, it's 5 years, no? Yeah, it's 5 years. So in case someone requests them. So I think they've asked this question, how long must you keep records? Some way, somehow, at an oral, they asked, how long should you keep records when you've administered an estate? 5 years. Nonetheless, guys, that's it from me. I hope that was short. I really hope that was short. That's it from me, guys. I hope you are preparing. Please, if you got your 40 something, don't don't shoot yourself in the foot by not studying. Try your level best to study, listen to the videos, repeat things. It's not about knowing everything perfectly, but just having an understanding, like I'm explaining it to you so that you can pour it out to the examiner. I mean, this is the step where you just need to prove one last time that you know what you learned, you understand it, and can you just, break free from these board exams. Nonetheless, all the best to those that are preparing for board exams. I wish you the best of not preparing for board exams, preparing for the orals. I wish you the best of luck. You guys have no reason to be failing. With these short videos that I'm giving you, just 30 minutes in a day, you listen to one video. By the time you are called for your oral, you will be able to explain everything. We'll come back to the section because I know some provinces they like asking you the specific section, which is a bit unfair, but it's fine. We'll deal with that. So there's just one more video that I have to post, and then I will prepare questions that we can run through on a video for our oral, and hopefully we are all passing our oral. All the best, guys, and yeah, thank you for your support. Share the video, share with your friends. And yeah, bye.